Today we're going to be doing a masking exercise which enables us to use a very useful Photoshop tool to combine images. As you can see here in the finished example, we've got a picture of the Earth blending in with a basketball, don't ask why, and superimposed over that is a superimposable Superman. And what we might do is grab the source images and get started. So first you'll need to open up Photoshop, and once you've got that happening, grab the source images, and for us they're waiting here at the photography Moodle course. Scroll down to Superman Globe source images. Let's open up the globe. Once we're there, we'll just save them to a working folder for the moment. I've put them on my desktop, but you can put them in your iDrive if you like. So I'll just right click on there and save picture as and put it in there, and do the same with the basketball and the Superman image. So you should have those resources ready to work with. I'm going to go to that folder. There's two ways we can open them in Photoshop. One is to go to Photoshop and go File, Open, Desktop, and I've got them here in this folder, and you can just open up your image from there. And this will form our background. The other way you could open up your file is to find the image and right click on it, and then use the Open With option. And it doesn't say that we can use Photoshop for that, but I'll just choose Program, scroll down to Photoshop and hit OK. As you can see, I've got a problem already. I'm going to save that image again. That's this one. The other way to open an image is to go to the file itself. I'm just going to right click on it and choose Open With, and Adobe Photoshop is an option there, so either within the program or right clicking on the file will give us that file. As you can see, I have multiple windows available to me, and I'll just grab the last one, right click, Open With, Adobe Photoshop. Alright, so let's start with our globe image. We want to superimpose or blend the Earth with the basketball. So first we need to copy this image onto the other one. So I've got the basketball open, Control A, which is to select all, Control A. To copy it, Control C, just like you would in a Word document. Now we're going to switch over to this image, and I'm going to go Control V. As you can see, it's pasted it over the top. Let's have a look here on the right where there's toolbars. I'm going to close down this adjustment one by double tapping on the grey area above the toolbar and open up the layers one. So I have a background layer of the Earth, and sitting over the top of it is the basketball. If I turn one off using that eye for the visibility, the image turns on and off as well. So I need to do two things. Firstly, I'm going to get rid of this white area. So let's use the magic wand. On the left hand toolbar, we'll just work our way down to the fourth icon. I'm holding down my mouse on it to change from quick selection tool to the magic wand tool. Now I'm going to magic wand on the white area and hit delete. It's all gone, but as you can see the selection area is still active, so to deselect that I'm going to use Control D to deselect. Now I have a basketball floating over the earth, and I want to scale it up so it sits over the earth. So this time I'm going to use the transform tool. Another keyboard shortcut is Control T. As you can see, because the active layer was the basketball layer, it's put a bounding box around that shape. So to scale it, I can grab the corner and drag it. But as you can see, it's not scaling in proportion. It's actually distorting. So there's a way to avoid that. Control T to transform. I just escaped out of that because I wasn't happy with it. I'm now going to hold down Shift, and that will scale in proportion. Notice that it's getting bigger in height and width. If I can then drag it to reposition it. If you want to scale something from the middle, I'll escape out again and show you how to do that. Control T to transform. I'm holding Shift with my left hand to maintain proportion, and Alt this time so it will scale out from the middle. And as you can see, I can do it all in one shot. I'm fairly happy with that. I want a bit of that glow around the earth to show, just to help the effect. Now hit Enter to accept that change. And as you can see, now have the basketball sitting over the earth. This is the bit where I want to blend the image into the earth, and I'm going to do something called masking. Now masking is something that affects the layer, but it never actually edits the image. So the basketball might disappear or become semi-transparent, but we won't ever edit those pixels themselves. So on the layers toolbar here on the right, down the bottom there is a little icon which looks like a rectangle with a white circle in it. When I've got the basketball layer selected and I click on that mask icon, it adds an extra image here. So what I basically am doing is either concealing or revealing parts of the image. And I'll just demonstrate that with a brush tool. Over here on the left, I'll grab the brush tool, and as I draw, nothing's happening. Notice that I have white selected, so white pastes or paints the image back in. Let's change that to black and see what happens this time. I have a soft brush and it's fading it out. As I said before, I can use this arrow here on the corner to switch between black and white, and I can paint the image back in, which is a bit slow with a small brush. So let's make the brush bigger with the square brackets, and the right square bracket will increase the brush size. So just paint that back in. So as you can see, if I can reveal or conceal areas with black and white, and those changes become visible on that layer, then I've got a lot of control about what happens on my image. So a big soft brush, make sure that you've gone to the brush options here, select a soft edge brush, make the brush size up over 300, should be enough, and I'm just going to use that. Let's switch back to black and paint out some of that. So part of it is basketball and part of it is planet Earth. There's no set rules about how you do this. Because masking works with a lot of different tools, there's a different way that we can do this. So I might just show you one more way, and that's with the gradient tool. So let's go down below the brush tool, past the eraser, there's a gradient tool. I just select that, and If up the top I select the gradient which has black through to white, a linear type gradient, and I click and drag that tool over the globe, as you can see it reveals some and not the rest. So that was a bad idea. Let's try that again. Right, so that works. So under the gradient options, we have white through to black gradients. Do that once more, Control Z to undo. If I want more basketball, but going the other way, then I have to drag the gradient tool in that direction. And I can play around with that till I'm happy with the results. I liked it like that. Okay, so we've successfully blended planet Earth and the basketball. Now we're going to do something with a bit more detail in it. So I'm going to go across to this tab with the Superman image, and I want to select the part of the image that I'm going to use. So I'm going to use this rectangular marquee tool on the left toolbar, hold down on that, select rectangular marquee tool, and I can select the area that I want to keep. That way you don't have to copy a whole image, you can just use parts that you want to retain. Now I've selected it, I want to Control C to copy that and select back onto the globe tab. Now I'm going to Control V to paste it. And there we have our Superman. At this point, it's a good idea to save our work. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'll put my name in there and the title of the piece. So this is called Superman Mask Exercise. Underscore and place your name. Keep that file extension. That file extension is for a Photoshop file, a PSD, and it retains all the layers that you've created. Click OK, and we're good to go. We haven't lost anything that we've just done, and now we're going to use that mask tool again to paint out the background around Superman. So let's zoom in first. I'm going to use the Control and plus key on the keyboard to zoom in. If it's not framed well, you can actually hold down the space bar and it will bring up this hand tool, a handy hand tool, and you can drag to the area that you want to work on. Alright, so what we're going to do is apply a mask to this layer and remove the bits that we don't need or make them not visible. So we'll go down to the right and select New Mask or Add Layer Mask. Make sure that's selected. If you use those tools and you've actually clicked on the image part, I'll just demonstrate with a brush. Notice it's actually drawing on the image rather than masking out. So I'll just undo that. Select the mask layer so it's highlighted. Bring that brush size down quite a lot. And this time, using the black mask, I'm going to be painting out the image. We're going to use two sorts of brushes for this. One is a big solid brush. So let's grab this solid brush and get just the bulk of the background image out of the scene. Careful not to delete useful things like capes so he can fly. Spacebar and the hand to drag and reframe that part of the image. And if we look here on the right, you can see that those areas that I've masked out appear as black on the layer mask. So that's a solid edge brush and large for big areas. Now we're going to use a soft edge brush, and I'm going to take that down to about 10 pixels and zoom in a bit further. This time I'm going to erase the background out, and I'm going to let that soft edge take out a little bit of the edge of Superman. And the reason we let this happen is so that it appears as though he's in the scene, rather than the effect that you would get if you got a magazine picture and cut it out with scissors and then just sit it over the top so it didn't suit the scene. We actually have Superman blending in somewhat. So this might look time consuming, but if you work steadily, you can get it done quite quickly. So I'd expect you to do something a bit more perfect than this, but for the demonstration, I'll just go around the outside, removing any bits of the image that we don't want to see. Okay, as you can see, I've removed most of the background. I'll give you a little tip here. For areas that are got a sharp angle or a right angle like this, sometimes you can remove more than you need to, like I have there. Switch back to the white, paint an area back in, and then tidy it up. So the last bit here is up around his head. Remove that. And now I want to see what the whole scene's looking like. I'll use a keyboard shortcut again. It's Control 0 on the numerical keypad. That shows my whole artboard. So that looks pretty good. And at this point, I'd like to position him so he looks like he's standing on the earth a bit more. So I'm going to use that Control T shortcut to transform the image. Control T brings up this little box. I am able to move him around, even change the angle. Notice that the cursor changes to a curve shape on the corner, and holding shift I can scale him down or up. Hit enter to accept the change. Now if I want to make a copy of that layer, all I have to do is drag the layer down to a new layer icon on the toolbar there, on the layers toolbar, and as you can see I've got two Supermen. I'm going to make a tiny one off in the distance. So all that work I did is now being useful for two areas. So there's one. Let's balance it out. I'll select that layer of the original, position him there, and we're done. So well done. I'm sure your image is looking really good, and maybe another time we'll show you how to put shadows on so it looks a bit more realistic, like this example here. Well done.